We are joined by Representative John Garamendi of the great state of California. Good morning, Representative.
Well, it is a good morning.
It is? Why?
Because the sun came up and we're one day closer to having Biden as president.
All right.
So
Okay.
that's a good morning.
I'm with you there. I swear, Representative, Jim Clyburn called this insurrection. I don't know what else to call it. Sedition? I don't think it's hyperbole. Do you? This ongoing attempt to subvert our democracy. And this morning, Kayleigh McEnany tweeted, the state of Texas has sued Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin over election irregularities. This means Texas will have original jurisdiction to go directly to the Supreme Court. Huge. Is this, am I crazy? What is happening here? Joe Biden won in a landslide, right?
Well, he did win in a landslide, not only in the popular vote, but also in the electoral vote. If this was going on in Venezuela, in fact, this did go on in Venezuela,
right,
and resulted in a dictatorship that is now once again consolidating power by simply pushing aside the legislative process in that country. We bemoan that for all of my life.
Yeah.
We've always talked about dictators and the way in which they seize power, and that is precisely what we see happening here.
Yeah.
Seizing power without regard to the election, overruling the election.
Yeah. And
it's not going to happen, thank God. It won't happen, but it's underway, and it's going to be a long time before this wound is healed in the United States.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know what other words to use, but this is traitorous. The people that are in, Ted Cruz offering to argue this at the Supreme Court as if we're in some kind of nail-biter election that hasn't been decided yet. I mean, it's, and as you know, whipping up violence. I am nervous about that part of it. Are you?
Well, I think all Americans who care about democracy, who have any sense of the history of this country and the terrible traumas that we went through when there really was insurrection. They called it the Civil War.
Yeah.
And here we are with a situation in which that is being threatened by some of Trump's supporters. They're using those words.
Yeah.
And Texas, where does that lead us? It leads us to a Supreme Court that hopefully understands the value and the purpose of an election and not play games with the man that appointed them.
And, you also talked, obviously in general, but on Twitter about, where we find ourselves. You said America is beginning a transition of power amidst a global health pandemic, an economic recession, rising tension with foreign adversaries. A smooth transition is critical to ensuring our government is prepared to address these monumental issues. And it's clear that whatever's happening at the Pentagon, Representative, they're trying to blind the Biden administration and therefore America. They're not sharing critical intelligence. This and why is just this some kind of just out of pique, I guess. But they're not really allowing a transition, even though they've been ordered to.
Well, it's very, very clear that Trump simply replaced people that were willing to stand up at least a little bit to him or put the big slow on and replaced it with folks that are going to carry out his instructions. And he's been very clear that he does not want to see the transition because that is one step closer to his departure. However, the folks that are working in the transition and the people that will be appointed to the positions in the Pentagon, they've been following very carefully every day the process of the military and all that it does. And they'll be able to come up to speed very, very quickly. However, the issue that you cited is really a problem of our democracy.
Yeah.
As I said before, it's going to take, we will get through this. We will have a new government, and we will be, one day closer every day that goes. We're one day closer. And then we will have a rational, reasonable process of deciding what we're going to do in this nation rather than the chaos of the Trump administration.
Well, for instance, today's a good news day, right? That it looks like the FDA has approved the Pfizer vaccine. And yet at the same time, of course, we have reporting that the Trump administration turned down Pfizer when they offered more doses. So now we have, the one company, right, that has been approved, and now, this whole America First campaign is such a joke to me at this point, isn't it, Representative? I mean, it's just so now we find that we're not going to get, because now they've committed to the rest of the world because for whatever reason the Trump administration turned them down. I mean, we missed the window on having enough Regeneron, according to top scientists. So that won't be till next summer. I mean, it is hard to get your mind around how badly they have screwed up this pandemic, right?
Well, we could use screwed up, mismanaged, ignored.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of words that would fit the description of what has happened. The result of it is Americans have died. They have been killed by the inaction and the screw-ups and the mismanagement of this government in its many, many places.
Yep.
Certainly starting with the president and his denial that this was even a problem, and the specific instructions to his various agencies to not get on with the appropriate public health procedures.
Yeah.
And here we are, 270,000, and it'll be 300,000 probably by the first of the year or more. They literally died as a result of the inability of the Trump administration to appropriately manage the pandemic.
Yeah, and I'm glad, by the way, Pfizer and Moderna CEOs declined the invitation to the Trump White House for the vaccine summit that you and I both know is going to be this usual Donald Trump trying to take credit and have everybody glorify him. They have been made, quite a point of separating themselves from the politics of this and, frankly, from the Trump White House.
Well, they should. First of all, why would anybody go into a COVID hotbed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? I'd find all kinds of excuses not to be in the White House. I'm
You would
sick,
definitely
I'm
have
gonna
a
get
thing.
sick, I know.
You would definitely have a thing with a guy somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
It's Well, I mean, but here's the thing: you guys have been working really hard to get help to the American people. I'm so tired of the media with this both sides do it, and it's talking about maybe it's Pelosi. I mean, as you said, the first month has come and gone yet again without a new stimulus package to help Americans pay the bills during COVID-19. House Democrats passed the HEROES Act back in May to ensure Americans had the support they need to get by. You said working Americans have waited long enough. It's time for the Senate GOP to come to the negotiating table, pass a bill, give Americans much needed support to weather this storm. I mean, it is Mitch McConnell, period, right?
Well, no, it's Mitch McConnell and the Republicans and the president, all together really holding out for what amounts to liability protection for companies that absolutely neglected the fundamentals of the health and welfare of their employees. Think about the meatpacking plants in the Midwest.
Yeah.
We're not talking necessarily just the COVID thing, but the basic Occupation Safety Health Act, ignoring it. And so that's one thing that the Republicans are holding out for. And it's not just COVID. It is liability protection from almost anything that has happened in this period of time.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the Democrats want money to get to local governments. And right now, we know that the Texas governor is withholding money that has already been appropriated for the local cities and counties in Texas. So, these are the things that the debate is presently focused on.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess it just burns me up this morning, Representative, that they still no direct payments to Americans. And yet, how many millions did they waste on hydroxychloroquine? Because that's what they thought, President thought was his miracle cure. And meanwhile, we're not going to have enough vaccine or Regeneron, in the time frame that people are going to need it. So let me get here's.
Well said,
go ahead.
But in the CARES bill and the previous bill, the Senate Republicans we put in an auditing procedure in those bills, and the Trump administration and Trump specifically refused to implement or to allow the implementation of the auditing procedures. We do know, as much as we possibly can, that it wasn't millions, it was tens of billions or maybe hundreds of billions that went to very, very large corporations
Yes.
and to very wealthy Americans and probably the Trump organization.
Yeah, and Kushner. Yeah, exactly. Let me get your take on Senator Sanders. Take a listen.
Right now, I'm working with my Democratic colleagues to make it clear that we should not go forward unless we do what the American people want. Right now, Jake, as you well know, I mean, we got half of our people living paycheck to paycheck. Something like 20% of our population now is either unemployed or earning less than $20,000 a year. People are facing eviction. Hunger is at a higher level today than any time in recent history. We have got to address those issues. And it concerns me very much that this bill is far, far, far less than the other proposals that the Democrats have brought forth.
You know, I know Speaker Pelosi, representative, said what's changed is a vaccine and a new president. And it does feel like we have just got to get help to people. Is it the day after Christmas? People's, money runs out. I mean, it really, we are just in such a dire place. Where are you on how we get this? Is there any chance of getting this done, I guess?
Well, this hour, as you and I are speaking, there are negotiations underway with Schumer and Pelosi, McConnell, and presumably a representative from the president. And it is possible that this day there will be a compromise. The things that we've talked about, Senator Sanders is correct. We do need to get help to people, and it's got to go to families, to small businesses. We have a restaurant proposal that's been out there. The money is, the question about the money is the length of time at which the program would operate. You can cut the money by a third if you cut the time by a third. And that seems to be what may be happening here, that it would still be a significant amount of stimulus money or support money to individuals, renters, small businesses, restaurants, and the like. But it would not go for the full year, which was what the $3 trillion was about. The $2 trillion was about half a year, and we're probably only looking at till sometime in March now. The amount of money to be distributed could be similar to what would be in the big bill, but it would be for a much shorter period of time, which is going to put incredible pressure on the next Congress and on the Biden administration, which may be part of the play that the Republicans have in mind.
Yep. Okay. And final question before you go. Why is it almost everyone in government that is awesome is from California? Oh, I've stumped you.
Because you're not looking broadly enough across America.
Oh, you're being humble. Okay. Representative Garamendi, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for taking time.
Anytime.
All right. Thank you, Representative. There he goes.